Next is a study that had to do with that medication that got such a black eye not long ago, and that was Zetia. And this is the SANDS study, S-A-N-D-S. And the D stands for diabetes. And what they used here was Zetia to get cholesterol levels down in patients who did not tolerate Zocor or Vytorin or Crestor or Lipitor or whatever. Those are the statin medications. So they gave them Zetia, and what they found out was that it actually prevented heart attack by getting the cholesterol down and so on. And I had no doubt that Zetia would be cleared because that was my intuition. Now I have some handouts here, articles that I printed. And one of the things that I want to talk about, first of all, is the stinking rose. The stinking rose turns out to be garlic. Which camera are we on? Okay, thanks. Hippocrates, known as the father of medicine, noted that garlic was excellent for curing tumors and was a good diuretic. Well, I don't know about that, but one of the points I want to make about garlic, which I clearly believe has health benefits, whether taken by pill or used in cooking, and of course cooking is always best, but you want to crush the clove and allow it 15 minutes before you actually boil it, because an enzyme has to be activated. That enzyme is called allicin. Allicin is the A-L-L-I-C-I-N is the active component in garlic, and allinase is the enzyme that activates it so it can do its good thing. Another thing I want to talk about is a natural chelator. You know, for years there have been those people who've done the EDTA infusions to chelate toxicity out of their body. It takes these heavy metals, aluminum, mercury, cadmium out. I've never been a big proponent of it by infusion, but I'm not averse to it as a concept. So what has been found is the coriander plant, the leafy portion, also known as cilantro, is very good at chelating toxic metals. So I encourage you to use lots of cilantro and crushed garlic that has been sitting on your cutting board for about 15 minutes in your cooking. Very, very healthy. Okay. Overweight men with high C-peptide are at increased risk of cancer of the prostate, death. Now, it turns out that bad things don't always cause problems. For instance, not everybody with high blood pressure has a heart attack or a stroke. Now, I'm not talking when they're walking around with blood pressures of 180 over 120, but I'm talking about if people walk around with high blood pressure, 145 over 95, yes, the probability is such that over a period of time they're going to develop a problem, heart attack, stroke, whatever, kidney failure, but not 100% of them. And the same thing goes for people who are overweight and have cancer of the prostate. Now, it turns out overweight is related to recurrence of cancer of the breast. So one of the things that you want to do is to be as lean and trim as you possibly can be if you have cancer of the breast. And to me, cancer of the breast and cancer of the prostate are the same condition. Obviously, breast in women, prostate in men. But that's more on the intuitive. However, here's a study that picks up on that and says essentially the same things. So what they said is that the men with the highest C-peptide, which is a measure of insulin, and you might think, well, why would insulin affect your living or dying from cancer of the prostate? Insulin is a growth factor. It makes things grow. And so I'd say less insulin, which would correlate with lower amounts of C-peptide. C-peptide is a part of the insulin molecule that gets cut off. So it's a little harder to measure insulin than it is to measure C-peptide. So when you measure C-peptide, you get an idea of how much insulin there is around, and that is a sign of insulin resistance. So it turns out that insulin resistance, which is also related to overweight, is made better by being thinner, and therefore the recurrence of the cancer of the breast and probably death from heart attack, death from cancer of the prostate are simply related to overweight and a kind of a diabetic tendency. I have told you many times that I think it's probably a good idea not to take your vitamins every day. There have been some studies that have shown an actual detriment to taking vitamins. And generally, I'm not a big believer in taking folic acid, but folic acid was one of the things that was studied for both high blood pressure, but also it has to do with methylation of certain cancers. It's always best to not have healthcare problems and to do what you can to avoid developing healthcare problems. But if you need something, then remember, there's always a risk and a benefit. So if you're taking folic acid, it might be a good idea to take a break on that once in a while because methyl groups are related to recurrent cancers. And as a matter of fact, I saw a patient recently who may have had some kind of leukemia, and so I contacted my close friend, our Director of Medical Education, J.T. Guy, who is a hematologist, and asked him about that, and he mentioned that the hypomethylators, that is reduced methylation, medications which are on the market may have been of value in this particular patient. So not too much and not too little of methyl donors, which would mean not too much folic acid, not too little. The best way to get your vitamins is to get them out of food, to eat mostly a vegetarian diet, which brings me to a topic that I also want to discuss, and that is it's the concept of calorie-dense foods. Now, calorie-dense foods have been shown to be related to the future development of diabetes. And diabetes is a marker for future development of cancer, future development of heart attack, future development of stroke, amputation, dialysis, blindness. And so calorie-dense foods, which would include things anywhere from fried chicken to cheese to eggs to butter to lots of oil, but all those foods plus the following: skinless chicken breast, butter, fried foods, I already mentioned those, cakes, cookies, desserts, are much higher in calories than the type of diet that I actually recommend. The brown rice, unless you're overweight, which you don't need the brown rice, the cooked vegetables, the vegetable soup, and the beans. And beans are much lower in calories. As a matter of fact, skinless chicken breast and white fish have 500% more fat than either of those two for the same amount of calories. And of course, I've always said, yes, I'm fair and balanced. So yes, there is fiber in the beans, but there are also carbohydrates in the beans. So it may have considerably less fat, which is more important in determining calorie content. You may have more fat in the chicken breast and the white fish than is in the beans, but they don't have any carbs, whereas the beans do have carbs. So it's not just a question of the fat content of the beans, it's also the beans and the carb. But with that, you get fiber and antioxidants, and I've made this point many times. Beans have more antioxidants than fruit, have more antioxidants than berries. So you're much better going with, just get started. If you go to Grant's restaurant, for instance, you can order certain vegetables served on a bed of lentils. Well, you're getting the best of both worlds. What you do is you get the beans in the form of the lentils, and you get the vegetables in terms of the green beans. So that's really how to dilute your fiber, how to dilute your calories and have high fiber. Well, we're getting the 5-minute sign.